Assalamu alaikum and welcome to my YouTube channel Biology Articles and MCQs. Today we are going to study and start the topic that is joints. According to the definition of joint, the joint is a part of body where two or more bones meet. Means it is a part of body which will help in the joining of your bones. It is a common thinking that every joint can move, but it depends upon the type of joint that the bone may or may not move on one another. The total number of joints in the human body are 360. According to the classification of joints, there are two types of classification, or there are two bases of classification. First, the joints are classified on the basis of the amount of movement, and the second on the basis of the amount of structure. On the basis of amount of movement, there are three types of joints, that are immovable joint, slightly movable joint and freely movable joint. And on the basis of structure, there are also three types of joints, that are fibrous joints, cartilaginous joints and synovial joints. In this video, you will learn about the classification of the joints on the basis of their amount of movement. Means the amount of movement they are giving to the bones. Either it will not move the bone, or slightly move the bone, or freely move the bone. First type of joint on the basis of the movement is immovable joint. Immovable joint is also called synarthrosis. It is called immovable joint because it cannot move the bones that are present along the joint. It means these are the joints that are fixed in the form of fixed form. For example, the joint that are present in the skull. As you know that the skull bones cannot move because the joints present between the skull bones are fixed or immovable joint. The bones that are present between the skull are simply called sutures. The second example of the immovable joint is gomphosis joint. This gomphosis joint is a joint that will fix your teeth into its socket. Here you can see in the diagram there is a teeth and here is a mandible, and this portion is called socket, that is fixing the teeth in it. The gomphosis joint is also an example of immovable or synarthrosis joint. The second type of the joint is slightly movable joint, and it is also called amphiarthrosis. Slightly movable joint means it will show a limited amount of movement. For example, the joints that are present between the vertebrae. Here in the diagram you are seeing the two vertebrae, and the blue portion is the joint that is connecting these vertebrae. This is a slightly movable joint. The second example of slightly movable joint are the joint that is connecting the sternum, or simply a breastbone, to the rib. Here it is a rib and it is a sternum, and these are the joints that are joining the ribs and the sternum. These joints are also amphiarthrosis or are slightly movable joint because they are giving a limited amount of movement. The third type of the joint is a freely movable joint, or it is also called diarthrosis. They are called freely movable joint because there is no restriction in the movement because of these joints. They are permitting free movement. The first example of the freely movable joint is the elbow joint. Elbow joint is present between your arm. There is a bone that is humerus, and these are the bones that are radius and ulna. And between the humerus and radius and ulna bone, there is a joint that is a freely movable joint, and it is also called elbow joint. Elbow joint will give the movement towards the bicep and away from the biceps, means it is giving two directional movement, forward movement and backward movement. The second example of the freely movable joint is shoulder joint. The shoulder joint is present between the shoulder shoulder bone or pelvic girdle, and the humerus. There the green portion is showing the shoulder joint. This shoulder joint will give four directional movements, means forward, backward and upward and downward movement. So because this is movement is free and there is no restriction in the movement, it is also diarthrosis or freely movable joint. So in this topic you have learned about the movement, the joints on the basis of their movement. So share this video with your friends, and having difficulty in any topic regarding biology, you can comment in the comment section below. Thank you.